Hello everyone, welcome back to Business Central Musings. We continue today our incursion through what's new in Business Central 2025, Wave 1, with the new continue keyword for AL loops. This keyword continue exists in many languages. And it's finally landing in AL. So first of all, continue is used within the loops. So a for loop, a repeat loop, a while loop, or what we're trying to achieve with a continue is to skip an iteration. We need to distinguish between what break does and what continue does. The break will terminate the loop. We will go to the next statement in the code after the loop. Whereas with continue, we're just terminating that current iteration and we move to the next record in the iteration. So that's one thing to know clearly about continue. I prepared two examples for the usage of continuous. They are all made up examples, nothing from my work, daily work. And one example is from Microsoft in one of their extensions. So let's go ahead and check on those three examples of using continue. I'm gonna open up VS Code, and this is the first example here. Very easy. We have a for loop, as you can see, and we go from 1 to 10 with an integer, and we test if that integer is an even number. Mod operator is going to return the remainder of dividing the integer I to number 2. So obviously, if the remainder is 0, that means we have an even number. And if the remainder is 1, it means we have an odd number. So with this continue, with this statement here, we test if the number is an even number. And if it's an even number, we skip it. So basically, 1 is going to give 1 mod 2 is going to be 1. That means this if is false. Therefore, we go to the next number. Then the next iteration, we're incrementing I with 1. Therefore, we have for I a value of 2. 2 mod 2 means what is the remainder of dividing 2 to 2. And we know it's 0. Therefore, we jump to this line. And on this line, we continue. We tell the compiler to continue, which means don't get here, but rather here at the end and increment I to 3. For 3, we have a remainder of 1. Therefore, we will continue to execute this line, number 15, line 15, which is the message, and so on. So that shows this is a very simple example of what continue does. It skips the current iteration, moving the pointer of the execution for compiler to the end of the loop, and therefore we move into the next iteration. Another example, which is not finalized, but just as an example of how we can use continue in our daily ERP work. Let's say we have a set of sales invoice lines. So these are posted sales lines, posted sales invoice lines. And we want to filter by the posting dates, whatever was posted in the last 30 days. So we filter on posting date by work date minus 30, work date. And what we do in the loop, we get the customer that's on that current sales invoice line, and we also use a buffer, email customer, which is pointing to the customer table, but it's a temporary table. And we're trying to see if the current customer, which we got here, exists in this emailed customer temporary table. And if it exists, we exit the loop, we move into the next sales invoice line. And we get the customer again. Customer is the real customer, it's not a temporary record. We get the next customer. We try to see if we have it already in the email customer. And for example, if we don't have it, then we have here, this is more like pseudocode, is not real code. I have a comment line where we want to calculate maybe the total business that this customer gave us in the last 30 days. And we want to maybe email that customer, like a thank you letter for the $10,000 business they gave us in the last 30 days. And so in this pseudocode, we calculate the total business of the customer and we send the email to the customer, the thank you letter to the customer. Then we record the fact that we emailed this customer. We initialize the emailed customer with the current customer, and then we inserted this in this temporary table. And so on, we move to the next sales invoice line. If the sales invoice line belongs to one of those last emailed customers, then we're going to continue. And we're going to continue until we get into another customer that we didn't email yet, and we're going to calculate the business they gave us, and we're going to send the email. So again, continue here is used to skip the current iteration. So if this condition is true, we will jump here and we're going to increment. We're going to get the next record in the sales invoice line. All right, so those are the two made up examples of how to use continue. But yeah, I've seen some comments online that it's not such a big deal. You can always structure the code so that you don't have to use continue. And I agree, we didn't have continue until today or until 2025 wave 1. So obviously there were ways to get away from using continue. But we have it now, and instead of spending the time to refactor all this function here, all this group, all this loop, why not use it? And the last thing I want to cover about continue is an example I found in Microsoft Code in one of their applications, one of their extensions. So I found in this, the IRS related code was extracted from the base application and moved into its own extension, IRS forms, and the other IRS applications, extensions. And in here, in the IRS forms, we have a code unit, IRS 1099 send email. If we look here, we see continue used, the keyword continue used here, and it's in a function that what this function does basically, it's scanning this table, IRS 1099 form doc header form doc header. We do a find set, and if we have records, we are looping through them. And the first thing we do, we see if we can get a vendor. based on the vendor recorded on this table, 1099 form docs header. And if we can't, then we log an error here, and after we log the error, we continue, which means we jump the pointer of the execution to this line. We get the next record in this table, 1099 form doc header, if there is one, and again we get it the loop. So again, another example of how we can use continue in AL. Yeah, it's a great addition to AL language, and yeah, I already started to use it, and I hope you do the same. Keep watching. I'll drop more videos on what's new in Business Central. There could be topics related to technical aspects of what's new, or application related topics, or maybe administration. We'll see what comes next. I'm just taking each week one new topic, and I hope you can keep watching my channel, and please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.